In the town where I live, people still maintain the belief that a nuclear war occurred 90 years ago, but actually this is not much better. Do you know the story of Japanese soldiers who didn't surrender with their country in 1945 but believed that the Second World War was still on? This reminds me of my childhood. In my hometown, we all grew up together as children with one story in our small community. It was already late October 1962, during Cuban Missile Crisis, when fear loomed large for worldwide destruction. Late in the night of October 27, as tension naturally increased and radio and television broadcasts became more anxious, townsfolk moved into an underground shelter they had built for such an occasion. Their few refused to enter it because there was no official information about attack or declaration of war. There were rumors that some vanished without a trace. I am a product of that awful night. After 10 years, I remember standing by myself and hitting against a wall with stones in an air raid shelter. The shelter was huge, but it couldn't replace what we were once used to. There was a makeshift school for kids, a communal kitchen stocked with unpalatable canned goods, rows of decrepit bunk beds. It was grim living underground, and you could tell this from the aged people who still recalled how it used to be better than this. One room became infamous for the multiple suicides that happened there. My father's body hung from the ceiling. Among these numbers, for months his death rendered me speechless, and sometimes I wish I could have gone instead. School has also informed me about the consequences following that decisive night. We were taught that most of the world had been destroyed through nuclear explosions, making it impossible to be habited again. It seemed like if we had any hope of surviving, then we must remain underground forever, as we learned from our teachers about atomic bomb teachings which instilled fear in us and no one dared challenging them. I never dared to question these truths until I reached my 19th year. I had this secret desire to explore the hidden places of the shelter, although I was a law-abiding citizen at heart. It was on one of such days that I came across something extraordinary. A window concealed by many layers of cobwebs and dust. As I swept off the debris, there lay before me breathtaking scenery of beautiful green landscapes and abandoned homes which were very different from the lifeless world we were told existed above. The following day, overwhelmed with curiosity and disbelief, I finally stepped out into the real world. To my surprise, the place through that window was actually outside. However, amid the beauty of nature, there was an eerie sight, an abandoned army truck next to a sad letter written by one soldier admitting our confinement in an unethical experiment. His words broke down what we lived under as illusion, and since then I resolved upon burying him along with his last confession just as he requested me to do so, despite returning back to the bunker in order to free my friends from captivity. I couldn't get through solid walls which had been constructed around them. In my wake, I escaped the town, trying to come to terms with the memories of my past. Adjusting to life above ground has been difficult for me because I am always haunted by what happened in the shelter. Hopefully one day they will venture out and find themselves in a world that is as marvelous as the one beyond our underground prison. Within the forest, my father's burned-down house said it all about a concealed past. The cabin in the woods was once a sign of our family's prosperity, but now is a ghastly reminder of the dark connections which have broken our family apart. My dad's occupation in our childhood story has always been an obscure puzzle, hidden behind that of a common accountant, running his firm in the midst of the busy city. However, his continued absence and permanent tiredness on his face suggested something entirely different from what was portrayed externally. The illusion shattered when he was finally apprehended by law enforcers who took him to its harsh confines for taking part in washing huge amounts for dangerous cartels. My mom could not bear with the news on his illegal acts, thus committed suicide, landing her into tragic perdition, thus darkening her legacy with betrayal and despair. When they fell, every trace of our previous wealth was confiscated except for one single refuge, which remained as our shelter in the wilderness. Therefore, it held on within the ruins that were previously ours. It was still alive amidst that wasteland left after our life crumbled down. Hence, I had no otherwise other than going back to this place and facing my own demons once again. Finding some old associates from my university days, we set off with lots of fear through the broken tracks leading to the cabin's lonely bosom. Our journey there blurred into a drunken haze of revelry, punctuated by the sudden and unsettling realization that our supplies were dwindling and we needed more. In the night darkness, we stumbled upon something surprising. Into the woods stank a heavy smell which seemed strange at such late hour. We'd been warned but still pressed forward, unaware of an apocalypse that was about to come through this dark curtain. we found ourselves in front of a sight that could not be comprehended. As fire raised down everything in the cabin, leaving burned wooden beams amidst wreckages. When I saw what looked like an infernal panorama before my eyes, I was gripped by panic as numerous emotions threatened to drown me mentally. Having come out of the fire's range, we immediately called for help, seeking refuge from smoke that was spreading around. But within all this chaos, there happened something surreal. An abrupt halt of flames, followed by only debris left over on this now deserted scene. I was being a transport driver employed by a parastatal with the work of ferrying police officers and several highly dangerous arrested criminals, from serial killers to offenders, to a high-security prison facility. The van I drove had 8 seats that included 2 in the front separated by thick transparent glass from the 6 back seats, which ensured my safety as a driver, despite not being briefed about specific crimes. The long drives lasting more than an hour gave me snippets into their dark backgrounds through their conversations and conduct. During transfer, some of these detainees would adamantly resist arrest, attempting to fight or flee, but such efforts would be checked by the sturdy build of the vehicle. Among them were individuals who were guilty of child abuse, molestation, and blatant reveling in what they had done. Others pled for mercy, as they hoped against hope that their lives could be spared. As disgusting as all this was, I had become immune in my 10 years on that job, even taking pride in it myself. The worse the person's deeds were, the better pleased I was when he delivered him up for justice. However, I was rudely awakened from my cocoon of self-satisfaction when a calm-looking, well-dressed young man was brought into the van under police custody. With 4 officers, he presented a confident aura. His tailored suit and slicked-back hair were counterintuitive of his age. His attitude, which lacked even a tinge of remorse, but dripped with jokes and humor, made him establish some kind of rapport with the officers. It was this insolence that really got to me because he turned his attention on me, recognizing the unique perspective I must have as the driver of such a strange vehicle. My response notwithstanding, it felt like his eyes through the rearview mirror went right through me, and that scared me more than anything else ever did in my life. Afterwards, there began a series of weird events bearing some relationship to the meeting I had with strange blue-suited guy. From ominous gestures to veiled threats, every day seemed like my existence could be swallowed by paranoia. The dangerous levels of threat I unknowingly put myself in were exposed by the discovery that my vehicle had an illegal tracking device. However, it emerged that he could not be described as a mere small-time criminal, but rather a well-known underworld character with hordes of following. This danger became immediate when his followers appeared in blue clothing. When they tried to kill me and escaped narrowly from car accident, this finally pushed me into stepping down from my post. However, even relocating did little to erase my fears, since now each person who happens to be dressed on blue is just like an innocent individual, but with a hidden ghost of terror. After passing through these terrible experiences, I have seriously reconsidered jokes. No longer do I find humor trivial, because today laughter saves me while at the same time acting as a mask against a backdrop of hidden dangers everywhere we go.